So, right, got the little recording message that we can begin. So the first thing we kind of wanted to go over was red flags you often see in email scams. So obviously all of us use email, whether it be for work, like just communication. And this is a prime way for scammers and other adversaries, or obviously the bad guys, will use to try to scam you of your money or some other type of information. And so this presentation here is specifically dedicated for those for emails. And we do have another presentation in a little bit that talks about a more general scope, which also covers like text messages and phone calls. So as you can see here, we have a lot of information, but we're going to operate through this like it's a pamphlet. And so like, obviously the right side is the front. And so now I'm going to move to the inside portion to discuss some of the information that we have in there. So as someone, who's grown up with a phone and email and things like that for different purposes, and who have family members who are like, my parents and aunts and uncles, everybody's been a victim or has been almost like been contacted by a scammer or another. Actually, very recently, my aunt was going through her emails and clicked on something without realizing it, and she was worried she downloaded something bad onto her computer, and so my siblings had to help her out with that. It's a very common thing. Like even I've done it. I went to the wrong website, clicked the wrong thing, and then panicked for like an hour trying to make sure nothing bad happened, and everything was fine. But it's something that commonly happens for everybody of any age. Now, as you see on the left side here, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but on the left side here, we have the signs of being a victim because, like I said, it happens to everybody. Now, some of the signs you obviously will see, like are like charges on your cards that you didn't make. If you check your bank account, it's like, hey, I don't remember depositing $500 somewhere in this past week. Obviously, the thing to do is call the bank, call your credit card and say, hey, this isn't me. A lot of banks and credit cards offer fraud protection. And so you can just call them and say, hey, cancel that, freeze my account. This isn't me. Someone bad has access. Now, you also might see in your email, hey, I don't remember sending my kids or my grandkids something that says like, buy essential oils from www.scam.com. And so, obviously if you check your email, you could possibly see this, by going through the folder that says things you sent or sent. And obviously what you would probably want to do there is change your account password, because it means somebody has gained access somehow, whether it be because they got your password or something else. Now you also might get an email saying like, hey, thank you for opening another account with this email. Or like, hey, thank you for joining suspicioussite.com. Obviously, when you sign up for a bank or another type of service online, you get an email like saying, hey, we're just checking in with you. So if you see somebody else is using your email to do like, go onto a sketchy site and do something, you can obviously again, you want to change your account password. So you aren't in contact them saying, hey, that's not me. And then just to clear up that confusion, that way someone can't impersonate you in this way. Now, when you're going through your email, if you get an email and you're unsure about it, there's a nice little checklist that we provide here that kind of tells you things that you can look at to help you figure out, okay, is this legitimate or is this fraud? Now, one of the first tips we always recommend is checking who sent it. Like if you don't recognize who sent it, like, you get an email from Chase or Bank of America, but you don't use either of them, saying that your account's been compromised, obviously that's probably a scam. Obviously that's going to be a scam. Now, another thing you want to check is not just who it says sent it, like, Dave from State Farm, but it might be like the actual email address it came from, like Nate from State Farm at statefarm.com. Now, certain emails, when you look at them, you're like, okay, that doesn't look right. That doesn't look normal. And you can that one easy way to do that would be obviously some of them just look weird. and it'll be obvious right away, okay, this doesn't look normal. This is probably not legit. Because a lot of companies follow a format for how they do their emails. Like my school email for RIT is like my initials and then a random number. So if I get an email from someone at RIT and it's like hashtag exclamation point something something, it doesn't follow that format, I can tell, hey, that's probably not from someone at RIT. An easy way to also check against for email addresses is if let's say you bank at Bank of America and you've had an email from them before, you can compare the two emails and say, hey, those two don't match up. Now, another thing you can often check when you're going through these emails is just things that are odd. Like if you're reading it and the English doesn't sound right, or something about it just seems strange, you might have that like sensation like, something doesn't sound right. Usually it's because the person or program they used to do it wasn't doing it properly. Like they repeat a word, they spell it wrong, something like that. Now, another sign that something could be a scam is something in the subject line, which is that part of the email you see before you actually see what they wrote to you. A lot of times scammers will try to rush you, will make you feel like it's a crisis or they'll threaten you. And so if you see something like urgent or a threat or, this is a big crisis, this is a big deal in the subject line, they're just trying to pressure you, which is a common scare tactic they use to try to make you rush into a decision. Because if you think about it more, you'll probably realize, hey, something's wrong here. So they don't want to give you that time to think. So always take your time. And if someone's making you say it's urgent, question it, but just like take a pause and be like, let me actually read this. Let me not rush or jump to anything. Obviously, like I said before, some of the oddities you might notice might be with the grammar. Like if they make a lot of spelling mistakes or they're using the wrong words. Now, one other common sign of email scams or bad people trying to use emails to, hack you is attachments. Like they'll want, or a link. They'll have you click a link that'll make you download something, or they'll have an attachment they want you to click and open and download to your computer. It's an often way that they get you to go to where they want you to go, that either collects your information or download something to your device to, perform some malicious activity. And another thing you want to check is what they're trying to do. So in an email from your bank saying, hey, you need to log into your account, like they might be asking you to do something like donate money, to change like your password, or to give up some type of information. Now, if your bank starts asking you to give them your social security number over email, don't do that. That's not something they do. They have very strict procedures about how they're supposed to collect that type of information. So if they're rushing to ask you to donate money or to change something like that, it's possible what they're trying to do for at least the password thing is for you to give them the password. And one of the last checklist little items we have here is the sign off. So like like I said, a lot of times I've detected a scam of someone trying to scam me is by checking the contact information they give me. Like this is something that actually happened to my mom one time. She got a call or email from our bank saying she needed to do something. And she obviously was upset. She was scared, but she didn't call them back through the numbers they left. She used the number she's always used when contacting the bank. And they're like, we have no idea what you're talking about. Because apparently sometimes especially if you check it and when she listened to the message again, she noticed, hey, these don't match. Obviously they can't have the same phone number or email as legitimate people. Sometimes they can impersonate it, but what's best to always do is go to the actual site. Like if it's your bank, don't use anything from the email, go to their actual website, use their phone number, use an email from there. So you can compare to stuff. Like if it is your bank, you probably received legitimate emails from your bank before, so you can compare the two. Now, going back to the first slide again, we actually listed some tips and tricks that we often use and that we tell our parents or other relatives to use. As you can see on this little left side here, for how to avoid, being hacked or being scammed. These are just some tips and tricks. This isn't exactly foolproof. Now, one thing we recommend is you don't use like the random links, buttons, or contact information given in the email. Like I was just saying before, if you're unsure about the contents or who it's from, go to the source. Like I said, if my bank contacts me saying some urgent thing, I'm not going to call the number in the email. I'm going to go to Bank of America's website and call them there or email them there. It's very easy to get their type of contact information just by looking them up, because a lot of places like that will have contact information for you. Now, and like we said, you can, while looking into that contact information, you can say, hey, this doesn't match. This is suspicious. That's something that actually, when we were running like a little trial before about like, hey, can these people spot scams versus legitimate emails? And then one person, what they did was they immediately went to their email and said, hey, actually, I have an email. I go to this company. This isn't what it looks like. And so like they looked up right then and there and said, hey, this doesn't match. Now, another common tip we have, and something I often rely on myself, sorry if I keep it look like I'm looking away. I have two screens here. And so I keep on looking back at where I see all of your wonderful faces or names. And it looks like I'm looking away because I'm bouncing back and forth. But anyway, sorry. The one thing that we have here is phoning a friend. If you aren't sure, ask somebody else for help, because that's like the most surefire way. Like, like I said, my mom, my aunt contacted my family, my siblings who are well versed in, computer stuff. My mom contacted me for some computer help. And it's like, it's better to be sure with help from a friend than just to, go on with that uneasy feeling. Another common tip, which you've all probably heard or told before, is if it's too good to be true, it probably is. It isn't true. So obviously they'll try to promise something or make you believe that something really good is happening. Like, saying like, oh, you won $1 million. Probably did not win $1 million. And that's not how they would notify you. Obviously, there's another trick we've learned is just looking at the exact email we got. Sometimes if you look up like something from the email, a thing like, hey, common scam going around. Somebody will post an article. Maybe they post something on, who knows, Facebook, or there might be, like I said, news article, or somebody else might have something in the images like, hey, I got the scam email, scam. Because if it's popular, someone's bound to have seen it before and posted about it. And again, like you said, worst case scenario, if you're still unsure, like we said, contact using the official stuff, the official website contact information to get the information back. I mean that use their official contact information in order to reach them and say like, hey, like my mom did. She's like, hey, Bank of America, I got this issue. What's going on? And they're like, this isn't really what's happening. It's a scam. We've been getting a lot of calls, and they'll help you out with that. And again, if you're unsure, even after going through all the red flags, after going through all the tips and tricks, and you're still feeling unsure, it's better to be safe than sorry. You're usually, when you have that gut feeling, it's usually right. Worst case scenario is your bank will contact you again through another official bank or other account or something will contact you for another official thing. And, it's better, like I said, better be safe than sorry. Now here, I believe you were all sent these beforehand. We have a bunch of resources. Like locally, we have the FBI's Buffalo office phone number, because obviously and this is what they were given to us about where you can call and get help. And there's also several different websites and phone numbers you can call. Like as you can see here, there's the Office for Victims of Crime. They have several different hotlines and other websites you can reach out to if you need help, because they realize this is a growing problem and concern. And so they'd like to support people if they can. Now, if you have any, again, and as we'll probably reiterate throughout this, if you have any questions about this presentation or anything you see here, please feel free to reach out. We have our information, our email down here at the bottom. And now I am going to move on from the email presentation, if it'll let me. There we go. To our social engineering. I'm monitoring the chat, so again, you have any questions at any point, please throw something in there. And all right, so moving on, we have the social engineering scam tips. Now, for anybody who's never heard the term before, This isn't like mechanical engineering, obviously, where you're going to a shop to fix something. This is social engineering is the fancy term we have for conning people, like talking to people, whether it be by email, text, phone call, or just walking up to you and talking to you to get information from you. Now, I'm going to again move to the next slide because that's the inside of the pamphlet. Actually, wait. This is okay. Oh yeah, saw the message here.
Do it in whatever order. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go through here. This is, as you might be able to tell, I did not do this one. We all, as a conglomerate at RIT, there's a couple dozen of us, and we've all worked on this together. I worked on the email scam one, so this one's a little bit less familiar to me, but I do know the topic somewhat very well. But obviously, like I was just saying, social engineering, as you can see here, the definition on the left side of the screen, it's a non-technical method to trick people into doing something that you wouldn't normally do. There's usually, again, like I was saying in the email thing, there's usually the sense of urgency or pressure because they don't want you to really think about it. They just want you to do it so you can't, so they can get what they want. Now, like we were saying before, the type of information they try to get is like social security number, your address, banking information, or username and passwords, anything they can use to maybe impersonate you or target you more specifically or take something from you. Like if they have the bank information, your bank information, they might be able to get money from you. If they have usernames and passwords, they may be able to get into your accounts and do stuff and pretending to be you. Now, there's a lot of ways they do this. Again, they've used phone calls, emails, text messages. Again, they can just come up to you and start talking to you, or they might fake an identity, Now, a couple things you can do is, like we said, go to the company's page. If you get an email from Google saying your account's been compromised, please send us an email your password. You can be like, I'm going to go call Google. They'll have a lot of companies have hotlines for you to contact them for stuff exactly like this. And so, go contact them, not through anything that they tell you in whatever the way they originally contacted you. Go to their website. Go to google.com/ or Google contact information for Google. Something will come up. Obviously, there's other things you can do, like reporting to the FTC, or you can enroll in this do not call list. And so you can get out of a lot of certain like spam calls or scams. Now, a couple of tips we have here is a series of questions you can ask yourself about whoever's talking to you or trying to contact you. One, who is trying to contact you? Like, if I get a call from my great aunt Ruth and I'm like, I don't have a great aunt Ruth, I'm probably not going to take that call or message. Or like if they're at like, hey, this is your Professor Heisenberg. I need your social security number for my class. Probably not my professor or anybody who goes to a school. Or like if they're asking for other information, like we need your password to log into your account. They will not do that. I'll be like, okay, that's not them. Another thing you can ask, how do I know they are who they say they are? Like, obviously, if you're if the person calling you or texting you, it's like you have no way to verify who they are. They say, if I get a text saying, I am the president of the United States, please give me your social security number. I'm just gonna assume the president of the United States is not texting me. And there's no way for them, like they can try to send a picture, but obviously there's pictures of the president online. There's usually a professional organization will have you give a way for you to verify who they say they are. Like you can, like, again, if it's the company's phone number, you can go to the company's website and call the phone number, and like the same group, it'll get you to the same place. And last question is this information something that should be shared on the phone? Like we said, there's a lot of ways, like with emails or text messages or even a phone call, it's an unsafe way to deliver certain information. Like you don't usually deliver passwords or sensitive information through like a regular email. So if they're asking me like to send all that over an email, probably like if they're saying, hey, can you email me back with your password for your bank? That's the best way to do it. No, because somebody can intercept that email, or if it goes to the wrong place, then bang, somebody else got my password. Now, going on to the next set of slides, we have some more red flags for this specifically. So a lot of times when you log into your bank, after you put in your password, it might ask you for a code that it sends to your phone or your email or something. If someone's asking for that information, the reason they're asking is because they're trying to log into your account and they can't get that information on their own, so they're trying to get you to give it to them. Usually, that's not something you share, because that's something meant specifically for you. Again, if they ask you for your social security number, or that is social security number, right?
That is social security number, and probably just like, credit card PIN, debit card PIN.
Yeah, sorry. When I saw PIN, it might be something else. Yeah, if they're asking you for that type of private information, or like the last security code on your credit card or something like that, or the PIN to unlock your phone, that's again, that's not something they ask for. It's become a very common practice that you're not allowed to ask for that type of information. Again, if they're trying to rush you and pressuring you to give you information, and they say, "Oh, it's urgent. You need to do it in the next 10 seconds, or your computer's going to explode." I would take that bet that my computer's not going to explode in 10 seconds. I am never it's not. If you could cause my computer to explode in 10 seconds and you're just getting to this now, then there's going to be another problem. But I doubt that's going to happen. So that's a very common tactic to try to, force you into doing something, obviously, that you wouldn't normally do. Because if you think you're rushed and you have to do it right now, you're less likely to think or make the right decision. Obviously, there will be other little mistakes through the email, like misspelled words and stuff like that. Like, if my bank doesn't know how to spell the word "but" and they use 2 T's every time, I'm going to question that it's an official source. Or if they spell word by putting the R before the O, little things like that. They won't pay attention to them. A professional organization is very much more, careful of that, because they don't want to be embarrassed. But a scammer is just trying to get it out as fast as they can, hit as many people as they can. Again, if you don't recognize the phone number, email, if you see, my email, like cybercorps@rit.edu saying, "Oh, this is your bank," probably not your bank. So if you don't recognize the way they're contacting you, it's unlikely that it's something new. Again, go to their website, check this contact information, see if it's right. Now, one thing, like we said, if you see an email like, "Hey, this is your bank," and it's something from outside the company, from gmail.com, companies usually have a specific end to theirs to denote it's from their company, easier for management. So if you see something like that, or somebody from outside, if I see something from Dave's iPad at gmail.com, and it's like, "This is your CEO. I need your," I'm like, I doubt my CEO is not going to use that type of email or anything like that. They're trying to contact me outside of work. They'll use their work email for work business. Again, asking for specific information, like your address or birthday, that's the type of stuff you would see in verification questions for your bank or other specific accounts. Lastly, if you're being encouraged to open an attachment or link, again, a lot of times that's how scammers or hackers will install malicious stuff on your computer or intercept information. One thing we've seen in the past is they'll have you click a link, show you a page that looks like your bank, but in the end, it's something that's going through them, and anything you send, like your password or anything like that, will be directed to them. So it's just another way for them to steal your information. Now, as you can see here, we provide a little example for how you should versus shouldn't answer a suspicious phone call. Obviously, I doubt the IRS is going to text you about $5,000. They'll probably send something more official, maybe even a letter. But I doubt I'm going to get a text from IRS that says you owe us $5,000. Obviously, if you've paid your taxes or that's been taken care of, you can just disregard it, and you can just call them out, or you can just leave it on red and go to the IRS website and contact them through there. But obviously, when they ask for specific information, just be like, "Nope, hang up, obviously certain things you're like, okay, this is obviously not true. Again, something you don't want to do is just like if they're trying to pressure you or scare you, is just give them the information, because once it's out there, it's very hard. Like I don't know if it's even possible to change your social security number, but like you might be
I
able
know
to,
people who have. It's very, very difficult, very, very long process and
yeah. But even
expensive. So
and in the meantime, while you're trying to change it, they're still able to use it. So it's just better not to give out that type of information. Now that is the end of this presentation. I'm going to pass it on to Nia to handle the internet security.
hi,
So I will
I'm
stop
Nia.
sharing and I'll pass it to her.
Yes.
I can, if the thanks Zoom for cooperating. All right.
Yep. All right, and I am spotlighted. Hello, I am the second presenter, and I'm here to talk about all the ways you can avoid what Elijah was just talking about. We don't like that stuff. We do not want to be, opening any attachments on emails that are suspicious, giving away our money. We want to avoid that in the first place. And I will say, the number one best way that you can start doing that is learning how to create good passwords and using good passwords for your accounts. So let's say I were to guess a password right now. I would probably start with, the word password, or password 123, or 1234567 8. Attackers are going to try and guess what your passwords are. And your job is to make them as hard to guess as possible. The harder they are to guess, the less likely someone's going to be able to get into your accounts, just point blank. So in order to make your passwords robust, make them good, they should be 4 things. They should be long. So we have here at least 15 characters long. You don't have to hit 15 characters for every password, but it is a good guideline to go by for sure. So complex, we've got some examples of special characters that you could substitute to use at the bottom. So, just a mix of uppercase, lowercase numbers, symbols, stuff that would be difficult to guess. So unique, not used for multiple accounts. This is very, very important. So say that I had an Amazon account and I used the same password for all of my other accounts. If that Amazon password gets released I might not even be able to control it. Just Amazon might have a breach and their passwords may be released. If my passwords are the same on all of my other accounts, the first thing an attacker is going to try and do is use that password on my other accounts. So that's a good thing. That's not a good thing. It's a good thing to have a variety of passwords between your accounts so that that kind of thing doesn't happen. And then unfamiliar. So definitely don't want personal information such as birthdays or like your mother's name or your child's name or anything, because an attacker could look that up. So if someone were to try and look up a certain date, let's say January, like if an attacker knew that your birthday was January 1st, 2000, they could try and guess your password being 1/1/2000 or 01/01/2000. You want to give them nothing to go off of. So here we have some tips on how to create good passwords. So a good way you can create a password is to take a word, just, any word, and modify it to change, so to add in special characters. So at the bottom, we have some examples of special characters here. And in the first example, you can see that I changed S for the $sign. And in the better example where I use a phrase, I changed the A in as to be a 4. So, things like that can make a password more difficult to guess. And it would be pretty easy. Not super easy to remember, but if you have a system down they don't have to be difficult to remember as people think that they have to be. So on the next page here, if I can get it to move, oh, spoilers. So I have a password creation guide here. So this is something that you can do on your own time if you'd like. So it's got an example of the process that can be done to create a password and some more examples of, you know, replacing letters with special characters and numbers to throw an attacker off. All right. So moving forward, how do we remember these passwords? Because, you know, what's the point of having a good password if you can't remember it? So you can write them down, but we really, really, really do not recommend it. Like you physically can write them down, but it's probably not the best idea to. But we recognize that people are going to do it. So if you are going to do it, you want to make sure that it is in a safe place that no one will be, that no one's going to be looking. People probably aren't going to find. But, you know, if someone breaks into your house, one of the things that they might be looking for first are your passwords that are written down, because most people's passwords are within, I believe it's 20 feet of their computer. So, you know, just look in the 20-foot radius for the passwords that are written down, you have access to all their accounts. So the better option would be to start using a password manager, which is a program that where you can store your passwords online. So in some cases, password managers will even fill in your passwords automatically when you go in to log into accounts. So that's definitely nice. So with writing down passwords, it's easy to do and it's free, but it is not as safe. You know, you need to keep those passwords. Now you have those passwords physically. It's really inconvenient to lock them in a safe and then get the key, and then, you know, the key can be found. Like, it can be difficult to keep them safe. But with a password manager, it can even create strong passwords for you. So, you know, you don't even need to use this password creation guide with a proper password manager. And they can be kept safe on your computer. Now, some of these password managers have a cost. There are ones that are likely built into your browser for free. Like I know Chrome has a free password manager built into the browser, so you don't have to purchase anything there. And they can admittedly be difficult to figure out how to use it first, but there are resources online that can show you how to better use those password managers. So again, we strongly recommend password managers, you know, little biased as security students, but we like them. Okay, so let's talk about safe internet browsing. So not all websites are safe. You know, Elijah was talking about in social engineering, you shouldn't just click all of the links that you get in emails. You don't just want to click all the links on the internet that you see either. So this isn't 100% all of the time the case, but a website is more likely to be safe if it begins with HTTPS. The S is important there, HTTPS, and has a lock icon to the left of it when you're on that website. So a website is not necessarily unsafe, but you definitely want to be more wary if the website URL begins with HTTP, so it's missing the S. And, you know, it has an exclamation mark next to it, or, you know, a little triangle, something that indicates that it's not secure. You know, that's what you'd want to look out for. Yeah.
Yeah, just to chime in real quick here. I have a lot of times, like, my browser will not let me go to the website. I've had that done at my work before, where I've tried going to somewhere and it's like, nope, it's not secure. Not letting you go there. Not letting you touch that. So a lot of browsers on their own, not like company or business ones, just my personal laptop, We'll not just put that up in that corner, but we'll put that right in my face and say, "Are you sure you want to go here?" And it'll make you like double check and then go. So like proceed with caution. We don't like this.
Yes, that's a very good point. I would be very, very, very cautious if my browser told me that a website potentially isn't safe. Like I'm probably going to say this later in the presentation, but I'll say it now. We have a lot of questions about antivirus software at these presentations, and what we say is the best antivirus software that you could have is already built into your computer. So you do, if that antivirus software is telling you that something looks suspicious, that's definitely something that you want to look into and be very aware of. All right, so let's continue. So keeping safe from pop-ups. If you think a pop-up is bad, don't click that pop-up. Sometimes you'll get a pop-up when you go into a website and say like, do you accept these cookies? And those are things that can essentially, track some of the information with what you're doing on that site. Those aren't going to give you a virus, but there are some websites, websites that may be missing the S in HTTPS that have some pop-ups that could potentially give you a virus, if I'm being straightforward. So there are a couple simple rules with pop-ups. If something looks too good to be true, it probably is. I know Elijah was saying this, like, if something says, oh, you've won $1 million, in this case, you won a free iPhone, you're probably not the millionth visitor. And I don't know a site that gives the millionth visitor an iPhone. So I would be very wary of that. Too good to be true. And some pop-ups may try to scare you. So again, they want you to think, oh my gosh, this is urgent, and not properly take the time to think through what you're doing. If something tries to say it's urgent, you have a virus, if a pop-up says you have a virus on your computer, or you have we're malware on your computer, we're going to shut down your computer in like 10 minutes, I would not click that. Absolutely not. And pop-ups may try and look, enticing. This kind of ties into too good to be true, but they may seem realistic. So somewhere that's hiring online jobs, you can work remote, you can receive a lot of pay with little experience. That may be enticing, but don't really want to click on that. So, we have some more examples here that kind of fit into those categories. You want a free iPod, you are the 100,000th visitor, or your payment information has been leaked, you're infected, all bad stuff that's here. They just have the intent of getting you to click on them. So yeah, we'll keep going. So we have some general internet safety tips, and normally these presentations take longer, so I actually haven't gotten to these slides this early before, but we have these general internet safety tips here so that if people want to look at some more advanced topics of how to protect themselves online, they have those resources available to them, and I'll go over them briefly here. So two-factor authentication. So, you want to make sure that if you're asked to enable that you do. That's when you try and log into your account, a code will be be sent to your phone or your email to confirm that it's you. I actually happen to know this statistic. 99.9% of attacks are stopped by two-factor authentication. So, if someone's trying to log into your account and a code is sent to your phone, they don't have access to your phone without contacting you. So that can stop them in their tracks very easily. We also say to avoid public Wi-Fi. So most Wi-Fi networks aren't out to get you, but some are, and they will look realistic, or they'll at least try to. So, if you're at a cafe or at the airport or somewhere public and there's a free open public Wi-Fi, think twice about connecting to it, because not the greatest thing, also a little bit too good to be true. People aren't just, giving out free Wi-Fi. And then software updates. Software updates often happen automatically when you fully restart your computer, when it shuts down and then it comes back up and it takes a full few minutes. Those software updates are very important because, if hackers find new ways to get into your computer, then those updates could contain information for your computer that can help it protect itself from those brand new attacks. So, whenever your computer pops up in the corner and it says you have a software update, you may be tempted to say, oh, just do that later. I'll just tell it to remind me later. Be sure not to do that too often. You can oftentimes schedule them to happen at 2, 3 a.m. when you're probably not awake. So there's always that option. And we have a little more information here for two-factor authentication. So, these are just different forms of two-factor authentication. So ones that are typically good are sending a text or a phone call, or, someone sends you a code, like the website sends you a code via email. But what's even better for companies to use is when they use login codes with a specific app, because, an attacker is even less likely to have that app, So if an attacker is trying to log into your account and you're texted a code to your phone, it's less likely that they're going to have the app to log into your account once they try and take the code from you, if that makes sense. So yeah, and we already went over what two-factor authentication is in short. So that's the end of this presentation. So that's the end of the third part.